What is the primary difference between phase I and phase II clinical trials, and why is this distinction critical for clinical research? Answer: phase I and phase II clinical trials serve different purposes in the drug development process. Phase I. This phase primarily focuses on the safety of a new drug. It involves a small number of healthy volunteers, 20100, and aims to identify the drug's pharmacokinetics, how the drug is absorbed, distributed, metabolized, and excreted, and its pharmacodynamics, the effect of the drug on the body. Key goals include determining the maximum tolerated dose (MTD) and identifying any potential side effects. Fitosoman 2, in contrast, phase I trials assess the drug's efficacy and continue to monitor its safety in a larger group of patients, 100-300, who have the disease or condition the drug is meant to treat. This phase is crucial for determining the optimal dosage range and understanding how well the drug works in the target population. Why is this distinction critical? This distinction is vital because it ensures that clinical trials progress methodically from safety to efficacy before moving into larger, more costly phase II trials. If safety issues are identified in phase I or efficacy issues in phase II, further trials may be halted, avoiding unnecessary risk to patients and wasting resources. What is good clinical practice (GCP) and how does it influence the responsibilities of a clinical research associate (CRA) in managing a clinical trial? Answer: good clinical practice (GCP) is an internationally recognized standard for designing, conducting, recording, and reporting clinical trials. It is guided by regulations and ethical principles to ensure the integrity of trial data and the protection of human subjects. GCP compliance is essential for ensuring that clinical trials are ethically conducted and scientifically credible. For a clinical research associate (CRA), GCP influences several key responsibilities, including monitoring compliance. The CRA must ensure that the clinical trial is being conducted according to the approved protocol, GCP guidelines, and regulatory requirements. Subject safety. The CRA monitors the informed consent process to ensure subjects are fully informed about the trial and their rights. The CRA also ensures that adverse events (AES) and serious adverse events (SAES) are reported in a timely manner. Data integrity. The CRA ensures accurate data collection, verification, and documentation, maintaining consistency with the source documents. Training and support. The CRA trains site staff in GCP principles and provides guidance throughout the trial to ensure compliance. What role does the Declaration of Helsinki play in clinical research, and how does it ensure ethical conduct in trials involving human subjects? Answer: the Declaration of Helsinki, first adopted by the World Medical Association (WMA) in 1964, is a foundational ethical guideline for conducting clinical research involving human subjects. It provides a set of ethical principles and guidelines to ensure that the rights, safety, and well-being of participants are paramount. Key principles of the Declaration include informed consent. Every subject must be given sufficient information about the trial, including risks, benefits, and their right to withdraw at any time. Scientific and social value. Research should have a valid scientific rationale and societal benefit, ensuring that the research questions are worthwhile and the outcomes will contribute positively to medical knowledge. Ethical review. The Declaration mandates that clinical trials undergo independent ethical review by a Research Ethics Committee (REC) before being approved. Risks versus benefits. The Declaration stresses that the risks to participants must be minimized and the anticipated benefits of the research should outweigh the potential risks. Dr. Stevens is conducting a phase I clinical trial for a new cancer drug. During the trial, a participant reports experiencing severe nausea and vomiting, which the investigator believes may be related to the treatment. The patient insists on continuing with the treatment despite the adverse event. What steps should Dr. Stevens take according to the ethical and regulatory guidelines in place? Answer: Dr. Stevens must adhere to good clinical practice (GCP) and the Declaration of Helsinki to ensure the participant's safety and well-being. Immediate assessment. Dr. Stevens should assess the severity of the adverse event A and determine if it constitutes a serious adverse event A. If it is severe or life-threatening, the event must be reported to the sponsor and regulatory authorities immediately. Informed consent review. The patient's right to withdraw from the trial must be clearly communicated. The informed consent process must be revisited to ensure the patient understands the risks and their right to discontinue participation at any time without penalty. Participant safety. Dr. Stevens must prioritize patient safety. If the adverse event is potentially related to the treatment, continuing the trial without addressing the issue could violate GCP principles. the participant's health and safety take precedence, and the physician may need to decide whether to withdraw the participant from the trial. Monitoring and reporting. The event must be thoroughly documented, including a full description of the symptoms, treatment provided, and any follow-up actions. This information should be shared with the sponsor and reviewed by the ethics committee overseeing the trial. What are the primary ethical considerations when obtaining informed consent in clinical trials, and how should a clinical research associate (CRA) ensure the process adheres to these ethical principles? Answer: informed consent is a cornerstone of ethical clinical research. The primary ethical considerations include autonomy. Participants must voluntarily agree to participate in the trial without any coercion or undue influence. The CRA ensures that the subject understands the trial's purpose, procedures, risks, benefits, and the right to withdraw at any time. Comprehension. The information provided must be clear and understandable to participants, ensuring that they can make an informed decision. Voluntariness. Consent must be freely given. Participants should not be pressured or made to feel obligated to join the study. The CRA should emphasize that participation is voluntary and that withdrawal is allowed at any stage without consequence. Disclosure. The full details of the trial, including potential risks and benefits, must be disclosed. The CRA should ensure that participants are aware of any potential conflicts of interest or risks related to the research. Documentation. The CRA is responsible for ensuring that a signed informed consent form is obtained and properly documented. This form must be kept in the subject's trial record. What are the key responsibilities of the clinical research associate (CRA) during the conduct of a clinical trial according to the FDA regulations? Answer: the FDA regulations 21 CFR Part 312 outline the roles and responsibilities of a CRA in ensuring the ethical conduct and regulatory compliance of clinical trials. The CRA's responsibilities include monitoring compliance. The CRA is responsible for ensuring that the clinical trial is conducted in accordance with the FDA-approved protocol, good clinical practice (GCP), and regulatory requirements. Data integrity and reporting. The CRA verifies that data collection is accurate, complete, and consistent with source documents. Any discrepancies must be addressed and corrected. Subject safety. The CRA ensures the safety of trial participants by monitoring adverse events (AES) and reporting serious adverse events (SAES) to the sponsor and regulatory authorities as required. Regulatory compliance. The CRA ensures the trial site adheres to the FDOS regulations, including obtaining proper approvals from the Institutional Review Board (IRB), submitting clinical data on time, and maintaining proper trial documentation. Training and support. The CRA trains clinical site staff on the protocol, regulatory requirements, and data collection procedures, ensuring that staff comply with FDA regulations. Explain the concept of randomization in clinical trials and discuss its importance in ensuring the validity of trial results. Answer: randomization is the process of assigning trial participants to different treatment groups in a random manner, which minimizes selection bias and ensures that the groups being compared are as similar as possible at the start of the trial. Why is randomization important? Minimizes bias. Randomization helps prevent bias that could occur if researchers or participants influence the treatment assignment. This is crucial for producing valid, generalizable results. Ensures balanced groups. By randomly assigning participants, randomization ensures that known and unknown factors e.g., age, gender, health status are evenly distributed across treatment groups. Improves statistical validity. Randomization enhances the ability to detect a true treatment effect because it ensures that the groups are comparable, reducing confounding factors. Regulatory perspective. Randomization is a key component of clinical trial design and is required under ICHE GCP guidelines to ensure the integrity and validity of trial outcomes. What are the key differences between the FDA and EMA guidelines in clinical trial conduct, and how should a CRA navigate these differences in a global trial? Answer: regulatory requirements, but both agencies align on core principles such as patient safety and scientific rigor. The key differences include regulatory focus. The FDA primarily oversees the approval and monitoring of drugs and medical devices in the US, while the EMA regulates products for the European Union. Their requirements for trial design, monitoring, and data reporting may differ. Approval process. The FDA follows a more structured phased approval process, while the EMA's approach may be more flexible in certain cases. G. Conditional marketing authorization. Trial reporting. The MA may have more stringent requirements for the reporting of adverse drug reactions ADAs during clinical trials, with additional guidelines on post-market surveillance compared to the FDA. As a CRA, navigating these differences involves understanding the specific regulatory requirements of each agency and ensuring compliance across different regions. The CRA must also stay updated on regional regulations to ensure the trial meets local requirements. How does the International Council for Harmonization influence clinical trial design and implementation? Answer: the International Council for Harmonization provides globally recognized guidelines for clinical trial design and implementation. ICH guidelines particularly outline the principles of good clinical practice (GCP), including the conduct of clinical trials, safety monitoring, data integrity, and ethical standards. Global standardization. ICH guidelines help standardize clinical trial processes across countries, facilitating international trials and easing the regulatory approval process in multiple regions. Consistency in trial conduct. By following ICH guidelines, clinical trials maintain consistency in methodologies, reducing the risk of non-compliance and ensuring the credibility of trial results. Regulatory alignment. ICH guidelines harmonize the standards between major regulatory agencies like the FDA, EMA, and others, helping to streamline the drug approval process. For CROS, ICH guidelines provide a framework for ensuring that clinical trials are conducted in compliance with ethical standards and regulatory requirements across different jurisdictions. What are the key ethical challenges that arise in clinical trials for vulnerable populations, and how should the CRA address these challenges? Answer: ethical challenges in clinical trials involving vulnerable populations, e.g., children, elderly, pregnant women, prisoners, or those with cognitive impairments, include informed consent. Ensuring that vulnerable individuals fully understand the trial and its risks is difficult due to their limited capacity for comprehension. In these cases, the CRA must work with caregivers or legal representatives to obtain consent. Coercion. Vulnerable populations may feel coerced into participation due to their dependent circumstances, and the CRA must ensure that consent is freely given and not influenced by power imbalances. Risk versus benefit. For vulnerable groups, the potential risks may be more significant. The CRA must ensure that the study design minimizes risks and that the potential benefits of participation are clearly communicated. To address these challenges, a CRA should advocate for ethics committee oversight, ensure that extra safeguards are in place, and provide ongoing support to participants to ensure they are protected throughout the trial process. What are the key considerations when selecting a clinical trial design, and how do these decisions impact the trial's validity and reliability? Answer: when selecting a clinical trial design, the primary considerations include the study objectives, the type of intervention, the patient population, and the research question being addressed. The choice of design, e.g., randomized controlled trial, ET, open label, or double blind, directly impacts the internal and external validity of the trial. Randomized controlled trials, RETS, provide high internal validity by reducing selection bias through random assignment. This enhances the reliability of causal inferences. Open label trials are less stringent and may introduce biases due to the lack of blinding. Double-blind trials minimize both investigator and participant biases, which enhances the validity of the results. Decisions regarding design should be influenced by ethical considerations, e.g., informed consent, regulatory guidelines, e.g., good clinical practice, GCP compliance, and the ability to generate reliable data for the intended analysis. Statistical considerations such as sample size and data analysis methods also play a significant role in ensuring the study's power and ability to detect meaningful effects. How do inclusion and exclusion criteria affect the generalizability of a clinical trial's results? Answer: inclusion and exclusion criteria are critical in defining the patient population for a clinical trial. These criteria determine which patients are eligible to participate, ensuring that the trial population is homogeneous and appropriate for testing the hypothesis. Inclusion criteria specify the characteristics that must be present for a patient to be included in the study, e.g., age, disease severity, prior treatments. This helps ensure that the treatment is tested in the appropriate group of patients. Exclusion criteria prevent patients with conditions or factors that may confound the study results from participating, e.g., comorbidities, pregnancy. The stricter the inclusion-exclusion criteria, the less generalizable the results may be to the broader population. While this improves the internal validity of the study by minimizing variability, it reduces external validity generalizability. Regulatory guidelines such as those from the FDA or EMA emphasize the importance of transparent inclusion-exclusion criteria to avoid selection bias and ensure ethical standards. A clinical trial involves testing a new cancer drug. The study uses a randomized, double-blind design to compare the drug against a placebo. The sample size calculation shows a need for 250 participants per group to achieve sufficient power. However, the sponsor is concerned about recruitment challenges and asks if the trial could proceed with a smaller sample size. How would you respond to this concern? Answer: in this scenario, the concern about sample size reduction must be addressed carefully. The sample size calculation is designed to ensure the study has sufficient statistical power to detect a meaningful effect while controlling for type I and type I errors. Reducing the sample size would undermine the study's ability to achieve reliable results, potentially leading to an increased risk of type I errors, false negatives, or decreased confidence in the trial's conclusions. The regulatory standards, such as Good Clinical Practice (GCP) and statistical guidelines, emphasize that the sample size must be adequate to demonstrate the treatment effect with statistical significance. If recruitment is an issue, the sponsor should explore alternative strategies such as multi-center trials, increasing the duration of recruitment, or revising the trial design to include interim analyses. Adaptive trial designs, rather than reducing the sample size below the calculated power threshold. In the context of risk-based monitoring, RBM, how does the use of central monitoring and targeted site visits contribute to the efficiency and effectiveness of clinical trials? Answer: risk-based monitoring, RBM, focuses on identifying and managing the most critical risks in clinical trials to ensure patient safety and data integrity while optimizing resource allocation. The use of central monitoring and targeted site visits is a cornerstone of this approach. Central monitoring involves the use of data analytics tools to remotely track and analyze clinical trial data across sites. This allows for early detection of data discrepancies or potential issues such as protocol deviations or safety concerns without waiting for on-site visits. Targeted site visits are then scheduled based on the findings from central monitoring, focusing on sites with identified risks or data anomalies. This prioritizes resources and reduces the frequency of unnecessary visits to low-risk sites, improving the overall efficiency of monitoring. By using RBM, the trial becomes more adaptive and responsive to emerging risks while also ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements like GCP. Sarah, a clinical research associate, CRA, is conducting a site initiation visit, CIV, at a new clinical trial site. During the visit, the investigator expresses concern about the protocol's complexity and the site's ability to enroll the targeted patient population. How should Sarah address these concerns to ensure a successful trial launch? Answer: Sarah should address the investigator's concerns in a constructive and supportive manner to ensure a smooth trial initiation. Key actions include: clarify the protocol. Sarah should review the trial protocol with the investigator, ensuring that the objectives, inclusion-exclusion criteria, and procedures are clearly understood. If the investigator finds certain aspects complex, Sarah could offer additional training or clarification to streamline the process. Provide support. Offer additional resources or support for patient recruitment, such as patient recruitment materials, access to databases for patient identification, or guidance on community outreach strategies. Feasibility reassessment. If the investigator's concerns are valid, Sarah should suggest reassessing the feasibility of the site, meeting enrollment targets, possibly with adjustments to the recruitment strategy or exploring additional sites. Document concerns. Any concerns raised should be documented and shared with the sponsor, and a plan should be put in place to address them proactively. Regulatory requirements, such as those outlined in GCP, mandate that sites must be adequately prepared and supported to ensure participant safety and data quality. Describe the role of adaptive trials in modern clinical research. How does this design impact the flexibility and efficiency of clinical trials? Answer: adaptive trials are designed to allow modifications to the trial protocol based on interim data analysis, providing flexibility in response to emerging trends. These modifications may include changes in the dose regimen, sample size, treatment arms, or patient population. The key advantages of adaptive trials include increased efficiency. Adaptive trials can make more efficient use of resources by modifying the trial design based on real-time data, potentially reducing the number of patients needed or adjusting treatment protocols if early results show promise. Faster decision-making. Interim analysis allows for early decision-making regarding the continuation, modification, or termination of the trial, which can speed up the time to market for effective treatments. Reduced ethical risks. By allowing for early termination of a trial if a treatment is found to be ineffective or harmful, adaptive trials reduce unnecessary exposure of participants to potentially harmful interventions. The FDA has published guidance on adaptive trial designs, including recommendations on statistical methods and protocol amendments to ensure these trials maintain scientific rigor and regulatory compliance. What are the essential components of an investigator's responsibilities in a clinical trial, and how do they ensure the trial's integrity and compliance with regulatory standards? Answer: an investigator in a clinical trial has several essential responsibilities to ensure the trial's integrity and regulatory compliance. These responsibilities include informed consent, ensuring that participants understand the trial's purpose, procedures, risks, and benefits before consenting to participate; compliance with the protocol, strictly following the trial protocol to ensure that the data collected are consistent and valid; patient safety, monitoring and reporting any adverse events or side effects that participants experience during the trial; data integrity, ensuring accurate and complete data collection and maintaining records in compliance with good clinical practice (GCP) and 21 CFR Part 312; reporting and documentation, maintaining accurate documentation and reporting any deviations, amendments, or violations to the sponsor and regulatory authorities. By fulfilling these responsibilities, the investigator ensures that the trial maintains its scientific credibility, patient safety, and compliance with ethical and regulatory standards. How do regulatory guidelines such as GCP and ICH influence the monitoring and auditing processes in clinical trials? Answer: the Good Clinical Practice (GCP) guidelines, along with the International Council for Harmonization (IC) guidelines, set the international standard for clinical trial conduct, ensuring participant safety, data integrity, and ethical standards. These guidelines influence monitoring and auditing processes in several ways. Monitoring. GCP mandates regular monitoring to ensure that the trial is being conducted according to the protocol and that data is accurately recorded. Monitors assess compliance, review adverse event reports, and ensure that the trial site is adhering to regulatory and ethical standards. Auditing. ICH and GCP guidelines also emphasize the importance of audits to independently verify the integrity of clinical trial data. Auditors review trial documentation, informed consent processes, and regulatory compliance to ensure that the trial meets both scientific and regulatory expectations. Both monitoring and auditing processes must be well documented and performed at regular intervals to guarantee that trials are conducted according to established guidelines and regulations. Explain the concept of feasibility studies in the context of site selection and how they contribute to successful clinical trial execution. Answer: feasibility studies are assessments conducted before the selection of trial sites to determine the capability and readiness of the site to conduct the trial successfully. These studies evaluate various factors such as site infrastructure, ensuring that the site has the necessary equipment, personnel, and facilities to conduct the trial according to the protocol; patient recruitment potential, assessing the site's ability to recruit a sufficient number of participants who meet the inclusion criteria; previous experience, reviewing the site's history with conducting similar clinical trials and its track record in adhering to regulatory requirements. Feasibility studies are critical to selecting sites that are both capable of meeting the study's requirements and aligned with the sponsor's timelines and budget. They help mitigate the risk of recruitment delays and protocol non-compliance, ensuring smooth trial execution. What is the role of the Clinical Research Associate (CRA) in ensuring proper documentation and compliance with regulatory requirements during a clinical trial? Answer: the Clinical Research Associate (CRA) plays a pivotal role in ensuring that clinical trials adhere to good clinical practice (GCP) and regulatory requirements. The CRA's key responsibilities include monitoring and reporting, ensuring that all study activities are documented correctly, including informed consent, adverse events, and protocol deviations. Source data verification. The CRA verifies that the source data matches the clinical trial records, ensuring that all information is accurate and complete. Regulatory compliance. The CRA ensures that all required regulatory documents, such as Institutional Review Board approvals and informed consent forms, are in place and up to date. Training and guidance. The CRA provides ongoing training to site staff on regulatory requirements, ensuring that the site team understands their roles in maintaining compliance throughout the trial. By ensuring thorough documentation and strict adherence to GCP and regulatory guidelines, the CRA helps safeguard the trial's scientific integrity and regulatory standing. What is the primary purpose of source data verification (SDV) during a site monitoring visit, and how does it relate to ensuring compliance with GCP, good clinical practice? Answer: Source data verification (SDV) is a key process during site monitoring visits where the clinical research associate compares the source data, e.g., medical records, laboratory reports, etc., with the data recorded on the case report form (RFS) or electronic CRFS ECFS. The primary purpose of SDV is to ensure that the data collected is accurate, complete, and consistent with the original source documents. This verification is critical in maintaining the integrity and validity of the clinical trial data, as discrepancies or inaccuracies could lead to misleading conclusions. SDV also helps to ensure compliance with GCP guidelines. According to ICHE, good clinical practice, integrated addendum to ICHE, or all clinical trials must maintain the highest standards of data integrity, accuracy, and reliability. GCP mandates that the clinical trial sponsor and investigators must ensure proper documentation and validation of the collected data, which is precisely what SDV seeks to verify. Ensuring SDV is performed correctly helps to guarantee the trial's scientific credibility and ensures that the results of the trial can be reliably interpreted. Why is the Statistical Analysis Plan (SAP) essential for the integrity of a clinical trial, and what should it include to comply with regulatory standards? Answer: A statistical analysis plan (SAP) is essential in clinical trials because it outlines the methodology for analyzing the clinical trial data. It serves as a detailed guide for how data will be handled and analyzed, ensuring consistency and transparency in the statistical approach. The SAP is a cornerstone for maintaining the integrity of the trial, as it prevents data manipulation and ensures that the trial's objectives are met in an objective manner. The SAP should include several key components: overview of statistical methods, a clear explanation of the statistical methods to be used, including hypothesis testing, data imputation methods for missing data, and handling of outliers, sample size calculation, justification of the sample size to ensure the trial has sufficient power to detect meaningful differences between groups, analysis of primary and secondary endpoints. The methods for analyzing the primary and secondary endpoints must be specified to avoid biases. Data handling, procedures for handling missing data, subject dropouts, and data transformations. Subgroup analyses, explanation of any planned subgroup analyses, ensuring that the trial's statistical approach is robust and consistent, in compliance with regulatory standards such as those set by the FDA and EMA. The SAP must be finalized prior to database lock to ensure that the data analysis is unbiased and consistent with the predefined protocol. According to 21 CFR Part 312 Investigational New Drug Applications and ICHE, this plan is required for ensuring scientific integrity and adherence to regulatory guidelines. Mr. Davis, a clinical research associate, CRA, is reviewing adverse event AE reports during a site monitoring visit. He notices that a site has not reported an AE that occurred in one of the participants. The AE involved severe chest pain, but the site did not file an SAE report within the required time frame. What should Mr. Davis do to ensure compliance with GCP and regulatory requirements? Answer: Mr. Davis should take the following steps to ensure compliance with good clinical practice, GCP, and regulatory requirements. Immediate reporting. As per ICHE guidelines and 21 CFR Part 312, all serious adverse events (SAEs) must be reported to the sponsor and the regulatory authorities, e.g., FDA, within a specific time frame, usually 24 hours from the site's awareness of the event. Since the AE involves severe chest pain, Mr. Davis must ensure that this is reported as a SAE. If it meets the criteria for seriousness, such as hospitalization or life-threatening consequences, documentation of non-compliance. Mr. Davis should document the non-compliance and inform the site about the missed reporting requirement. The CRA should emphasize the importance of timely and accurate EC reporting in maintaining the safety of participants and meeting regulatory obligations. Follow up with site. Mr. Davis must work with the site to ensure the SAE report is submitted immediately, along with any supporting documentation, including clinical records or laboratory results. Monitor for corrective actions. After addressing the immediate issue, Mr. Davis should confirm that corrective actions are implemented at the site level to prevent future delays in EC reporting. This might include additional training for site staff on adverse event reporting requirements. The FDOS 21 CFR Part 312.32 and ICHE Section 4.11 are clear on the need for prompt SAE reporting to protect trial participants and ensure regulatory compliance. What are the key challenges in maintaining data integrity during the data collection phase of a clinical trial, and how should a CRA address these challenges? Answer: maintaining data integrity during the data collection phase is one of the most critical aspects of clinical trials. Key challenges include data accuracy and consistency. Ensuring that the data collected from clinical trial participants is accurate and consistent is a primary concern, as can occur during data entry either due to human mistakes or technical issues with electronic data capture systems. Missing data. Missing or incomplete data is a common issue in clinical trials and can skew the results. A CRA must ensure that data queries are generated to address missing or unclear data. Data manipulation or fabrication. There is always a risk that trial staff could falsify or manipulate data. A CRA should be vigilant in reviewing source documents to verify the authenticity of the data and perform random checks to uncover any potential falsification. System failures and technical issues. The use of ECF systems poses the risk of data loss due to system failures or technical glitches. It is important for the CRA to work closely with the data management team to ensure that the data is being stored securely and backed up regularly. The CRA can address these challenges by ensuring that regular monitoring, performing regular site monitoring visits and SDV to verify data accuracy, training, ensuring site personnel are adequately trained in data collection procedures, including the use of ECF, establishing data query systems, implementing a robust system for querying and resolving missing or inconsistent data, collaboration with data management, maintaining close communication with the data management team to ensure data integrity across all trial phases, following GCP guidelines, particularly ICHE. Section 5 is crucial in ensuring data integrity and protecting participant safety. What is the role of a clinical data manager (CDM) in ensuring that data entry and validation procedures are followed in a clinical trial? Answer: a clinical data manager (CDM) plays a pivotal role in ensuring that data entry and validation procedures are rigorously followed to maintain the quality and integrity of clinical trial data. Key responsibilities of a CDM include data entry oversight. The CDM is responsible for ensuring that data is entered accurately into the clinical database. This includes overseeing the use of ECFs and ensuring that data entry complies with predefined data standards. Data validation. The CDM ensures that data is checked for consistency, completeness, and accuracy. Validation checks include cross-checking the data with source documents (SDV) and identifying any discrepancies or missing information. Data query management. When issues are identified with the data, the CDM raises data queries and ensures that site staff promptly address them. This includes clarifying discrepancies, confirming data entry errors, and ensuring all issues are resolved before data analysis begins. Compliance with regulatory requirements. The CDM ensures that all data management practices comply with regulatory guidelines, such as FDA 21 CFR Part 11 electronic records, the electronic signatures, and ICHE, which emphasize data integrity, traceability, and validation. How should a clinical research associate (CRA) address issues related to non-compliance with the protocol during site monitoring visits? Answer: during site monitoring visits, the CRA plays a key role in identifying and addressing non-compliance with the clinical trial protocol. If a site is found to be deviating from the protocol, the CRA should take the following steps. Immediate documentation of deviations. The CRA should immediately document any deviations or violations of the protocol in their monitoring report. This includes detailing the nature of the non-compliance, such as failure to follow inclusion-exclusion criteria, improper administration of the investigation or product, or failure to adhere to the required timelines. Discussion with site personnel. The CRA should discuss the issue with the site personnel to understand the reasons behind the non-compliance. This is essential for determining whether the issue was due to a misunderstanding, lack of training, or systemic failures at the site. Corrective actions. Based on the findings, the CRA should recommend corrective actions to the site. This may include additional training, revising site procedures, or in severe cases, suspending patient enrollment or treatment until the issue is resolved. Follow-up. The CRA should ensure that the site implements the corrective actions and monitor compliance during subsequent visits. What are the ethical considerations that a clinical research associate (CRO) should be aware of when conducting site visits and interacting with study participants? Answer. When conducting site visits and interacting with study participants, the CRA must uphold the highest ethical standards, ensuring that the rights, safety, and well-being of the participants are protected. Key ethical considerations include informed consent. The CRA should ensure that participants have provided informed consent before any study-related procedures are performed. This includes verifying that participants understand the nature of the trial, the potential risks, and their right to withdraw at any time without consequence. Confidentiality. The CRA must respect the confidentiality of the participants and their data. This involves ensuring that data is securely stored, protected, and only accessible to authorized personnel in compliance with laws such as HRPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Safety monitoring. The CRA is responsible for ensuring that any adverse events or serious adverse events are reported promptly and appropriately to protect participant safety as outlined in ICHE. Conflict of interest. The CRA must avoid conflicts of interest that could influence their objectivity when monitoring the trial and reviewing data. Explain the process and importance of adverse event AE and serious adverse event AE reporting in clinical trials. Answer. Adverse event AE and serious adverse event AE reporting is a critical component of clinical trial monitoring that ensures patient safety and regulatory compliance. The process involves identification of EC during the trial. The investigator or site personnel must identify any AE or SAE that occurs in trial participants. An AE is any unfavorable medical occurrence, while an SAE is an event that results in death, hospitalization, disability, or any life-threatening situation. Immediate reporting. SAEs must be reported to the sponsor and regulatory authorities, such as the FDA, within a strict time frame, typically within 24 hours of becoming aware of the event. AEs are reported according to the trial protocol's timelines. Follow-up and documentation. Once reported, further investigation and follow-up are necessary to determine the severity, causality, and outcomes of the event. Detailed documentation is required for regulatory submission, data review, and risk assessment. Ongoing EC reporting allows the sponsor and the CRA to assess the safety risks associated with the investigation or product and make any necessary adjustments to the trial protocol to protect participants. What is the role of the CRA in ensuring compliance with good clinical practice (GCP) during clinical trial monitoring? Answer. The CRA is responsible for ensuring compliance with good clinical practice (GCP) guidelines, which outline the ethical and scientific quality standards for conducting clinical trials. Key responsibilities include site monitoring. The CRA regularly visits clinical sites to verify that the trial is being conducted in compliance with the protocol, regulatory requirements, and GCP. Verification of documentation, ensuring that essential documents such as informed consent forms, source data, and case report forms are complete, accurate, and properly maintained. Training and support, providing site staff with necessary GCP training to ensure that they understand the standards and regulations for conducting clinical trials. Safety oversight. The CRA monitors for adverse events and ensures that all necessary safety reporting procedures are followed as per regulatory guidelines like ICHE and 21 CFR Part 312. By ensuring compliance with these standards, the CRA helps to protect participant rights, maintain data integrity, and ensure that the trial results are credible. What challenges arise during data query management, and how should a CRA handle these challenges to maintain the integrity of the clinical trial data? Answer. Data query management is crucial for maintaining the accuracy and integrity of the clinical trial data. Challenges that may arise include incomplete or inconsistent data. Data entries may be incomplete or inconsistent, making it difficult to interpret the results accurately. Delays in response from sites. Sometimes sites may not respond to data queries promptly, delaying the resolution process. Clarification of discrepancies. The CRA must effectively communicate with the site to clarify discrepancies in the data, ensuring that all necessary corrections are made. To handle these challenges, the CRA should raise clear, concise, and well-documented data queries. The CRA must follow up with sites regularly to ensure timely resolution of the queries. The CRA should maintain detailed records of all communications related to query resolution. Following regulatory guidelines such as ICHE ensures that data query management processes are efficient and compliant with standards for data integrity.